Welcome to the Farzy Show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Destination Retirement, destinationretirement.com. And we're coming to you live, as we do every day, from 6 to 7 a.m., Monday through Friday, from the Steven Singer Studios. Well, Doc Rivers is under fire as of yesterday, a story we'll have a lot of fun getting into, because somebody took him up on that little offer to write about what a terrible job he did in Philadelphia. And that man's name is Tiago Scabbia of thepaintedlines.com. And he joins the show today to take Doc Rivers up on that offer a little bit more than just writing a story about it. So that'll be fun for all the Doc Rivers haters out there in our chat. And I know we got a lot of them. So we have that to discuss today. Phillies took the good vibes created in their road trip, put them behind the shed, and killed them. That was what the Phillies did yesterday with a 3-0 loss to the San Diego Padres, and they did it in fine Philly style by the bats not hitting. We got Joe Girardi on that. That'll be fun, too. And the gloves not catching? Yeah, I think that's how we would put that. Just an awful Phillies performance for everyone not named Zach Eflin, unfortunately. Zach Eflin was great yesterday. Zach Eflin was masterful yesterday. His defense, not so much. So that's all the fun stuff. We also are going to talk a little bit about the Miami Heat, because I'm watching Jimmy Butler last night, and I just can't get over the idea that he was a 76er that was allowed to leave after not even a full season, the vast majority of a season, and 2 rounds of the playoffs, a 76er. How that man that I think encompasses what Philly is all about, oh God, I'm about to say it, a Philly guy. Jimmy Butler was spectacular yesterday in game 1 against the Celtics. So much so that I hate doing this after watching one game, because I had the Celtics in 6. And I was like, I don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to be denied. Watching him play that game, especially in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and he's forcing back-to-back turnovers and creating offense with his defense for the Miami Heat, as he really has done throughout the entire playoffs. It's really been remarkable to watch him. Even when he was watching him against the Hawks before the Sixers series, this guy just doesn't want to be denied. And there's some amazing stats on him we'll get to a little bit later in the show. But he was just incredible yesterday. Now, the Celtics were shorthanded. They didn't have Al Horford. They didn't have Marcus Smart. Horford's in health and safety protocol. Marcus Smart has a foot strain, I believe it is. So he might be back for this next game. We'll see for game 2. But nonetheless, just an incredible performance by the Miami Heat, who were trailing in the early portions of this game for the vast majority of this game, for the first half and into the 3rd quarter. And then just, it was forget about it in the second half of that game, because Jimmy Butler got things going. Tyler Hero going out in the post-game press conference, got the suns out, guns out type of deal. Got the buys and tries flexing. He was sleeveless, folks. He was like Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's what he was like. And that's how he did his post-game press conference. But we'll get into that game a little bit. But let's start it off with our beloved Philadelphia Phillies, because, as I said, they come back from the road trip where they handled their business against the Mariners, won 3 of 4 somehow magically against the Dodgers, and would have been a sweep if they didn't blow the save, of course, in the 9th inning. Corey Knebel out there. But, hey, that's baseball. Things are going to happen. We had said when the season started that this Phillies lineup is going to have to mash, and we got into it yesterday with Evan Macy of PhillyVoice.com, who covers the Phillies for the fine website, that this Phillies lineup is going to have to mash. And yesterday they did not mash. But here's what we ask. If you're not going to mash, you're not going to muster any runs, such as a 3-0 loss they suffered yesterday, can you give us some decent defense? Because I think right along the same lines as this team is really going to be raking this year, we said, well, their offense is going to have to be their defense. And yesterday, their offense was non-existent. And if it was non-existent, it certainly couldn't be a strong defense. In the early goings of the game, you see Bryce go out there behind second base. He's playing short. He makes a great play on a ball, spins, fires the first, gets the out. You're like, all right, here you go, Bryce Stott. And then you see Odubel Herrera kick the ball around a little bit in right field. He was playing right field. Roman Quinn was in center last night. Bryce Stott later in the game gets a play in the 5th inning, and I want to say it could have turned 2. Instead, he did not. He dropped the transfer. So they get 1 out at first base with run scores on the play. Then the granddaddy of them all, Bryce Stott also booted another one behind second base, and that was just a sharply hit ball up the middle that he couldn't corral. But the granddaddy of them all, was Kyle Schwarber in left field. Kyle Schwarber was 0 for 4 from the plate yesterday. 0 for 4. He's been dropped in the batting order, but yesterday it was raised a little bit. I guess his bat without Bryce Harper's bat in the lineup again. They wanted somebody else batting third. So Kyle Schwarber was actually hitting third yesterday. 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Just missed a home run in this game, but still, he missed the home run. But batting 183 now on the season with a 288 on-base percentage. That's nothing to write home about. That's not a positive. So if you're going to do that from the dish, give me some solid play in the field. He did not. A ball hit to him in left field. He overruns. He allows it to go right under his mitt and goes to the wall. Another run scores. Roman Quinn has to come over from center field to track down the ball that bounced off the wall and throw it back into the infield. If Kyle Schwarber's going to struggle from the plate, he can't be overrunning balls in left field either. This is one of those games where you'd have to take the good with the bad if Kyle Schwarber was actually able to connect and make that a home run, because he did hit a bomb in this game. It just went foul, which, of course, as we all know, it's just a strike. That's all that is. And if he's going to go for 4, you can't overrun that ball. It was dreadful. It was little league. There were a number of plays defensively where this team looked like a little league ball club. And Zach Eflin, to give you the numbers on him, his line, 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run. It was earned 5 strikeouts. That's the performance he gave you from the bump. And the Phillies couldn't give him any support from the plate. Abysmal performance by the Phillies. And the thing that sucks is a lot of people are watching these games on the road, despite it being a West Coast trip. If you're not watching them live, you're catching up on them later. You're at least glancing at the box score in the morning as you're going over whatever happened the night before. You're just trying to follow along. Hey, you got some good vibes going. This is great. The team might be turning around. Maybe it was that road trip that needed to bring everything together. Come home against the Padres. No, we're good. So we have talked about this stretch for the Phillies and these 10 games where you have the Padres and you have the Dodgers and you got a 4-game series with the Braves in Atlanta. We have talked about this 10-game stretch and how important it is to the rest of the season. 0-1 is how they're starting things up. And also, after taking 6-8, the Phillies have now lost 2 in a row. So that's not exactly how you want to try to continue your momentum. The fearless manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, Joe Girardi, after the game, talked about why the Phillies bats were so damn silent and what's going on with Kyle Schwarber. What do you say to this man after an 0 for 4 performance with 4 strikeouts and that play and left?
I don't think we had a whole lot to hit, and we didn't necessarily swing the bats great. We didn't walk tonight, but I just think it was one of those nights. I mean, Clevenger looked like he was throwing the ball pretty well, and Gore came in, threw the ball pretty well. It was just one of those nights.
What are you seeing from Schwarber right now?
He had an okay road trip. He was on base 3 times Sunday night. He's missing his pitches when he gets it, is what's happening. Like he hit the home run foul. He missed it, right, in a sense. It's just, he's not swing. He didn't swing well tonight.
He hasn't been swinging well all season. I mean, I knew that Kyle Schwarber was going to be a home run hitter for this team. I certainly wasn't expecting a 183 batting average. I mean, 9 home runs is nice and all. Driving in runs when it happens is nice and all. But when it comes to the way he's been playing in the field and it comes to just an overall batting average and on-base percentage, which should be the number one thing, I mean, this guy's your leadoff hitter for most of the season to this point, up until recently. I give credit to Joe Girardi for getting him out of that spot at least. But I was not expecting this type of start to the season for Kyle Schwarber when it came to on-base percentage, and it came to what he was able to do, what he's able to do from the plate in terms of batting average either. Home runs were great. Fielding, not great. Just getting on base, try to help this team win, not great either. I don't know what this team can do with Kyle Schwarber at this point when it comes to waiting patiently for him to be a little bit more consistent. He and JT Realmuto, at least with JT Realmuto, you're getting solid defense, and he's been struggling as of late, and they tried to get him off the schneid last night. It just didn't work. But Kyle Schwarber, most notably above all these guys, are guys that I'm worried about in this lineup and trying to turn it around. When I look at JT Realmuto, I see a guy who's just about to break through. Like, I feel like he is going to get back to a guy that can be a consistent 260, 270, maybe even 280 hitter for you in this lineup. Get you 20-plus home runs. That's what I see from JT Realmuto, and I think that's what we'll get at the end of the season. Schwarber is in a really rough stretch. And I know a lot of people like to talk about hitting season, and maybe you get into June, maybe you get into July. That's where you'll see Kyle Schwarber really start to get hot. That's where you'll start to see that average start to pop. That's where you'll see that on-base percentage start to go up as well. And look, if he maintains this pace for home runs, I'm fine with it. I can see this pace lasting for a while with Kyle Schwarber. I mean, he's tied for 7th right now in Major League Baseball for home runs. So Phillies lose. Bryce Harper didn't play. Hopefully he'll be back in the lineup tonight. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that. Another 6:45 start time for the Phillies and the Padres as they get this underway again tonight.
I don't think we had a whole lot to hit. Yeah.
All right, Joe. Thanks for dropping by again. Clevenger was pretty damn good last night, but bottom line is the Phillies bats, the lineup, they're supposed to be above average. Second best team in Major League Baseball when it comes to batting average, and they went up against pitchers not exactly stacking Cy Young awards. He pitched great last night. Phillies also didn't, they did him some favors. Let's put it that way. So hopefully the Phillies will be able to turn this around and bounce right back tomorrow. Hopefully start a nice little winning streak. Some positive notes. Alec Boehm, 6-game hitting streak. Very nice. Gene Segura extended his hitting streak to 13 games. So offensively speaking, at least those are some guys that are getting it done. We're going to bring this man on in a minute, Tiago Scabbia, who wrote this article. Now, I tell this to him during the interview, but I have to say it again right now because it's just rattling around in my brain. I've told you guys before, I'm a big fan of the Smart List podcast, and Will Arnett on that podcast has a great line. I heard him say one time that he, whenever he hears somebody say, well, I'm my own worst critic. I'm my own harshest critic. Will Arnett always says in response to that when he hears it, oh, yeah, can I have a crack at it? And I think that's hilarious. Doc Rivers said he did a terrific job as the head coach of the 76ers. Does that mean like Brett Brown's in the Hall of Fame? Like, what does this mean exactly? If Doc Rivers did a great job as a Sixers head coach, are we hoisting Brett Brown's name up into the rafters at the Wells Fargo Center? Is that what we're going to do? Because when you really break it down, and I give a lot of credit to our guest today, Tiago Scabbia, for actually pointing this out. Like, what have the Sixers gotten better at since they moved on from Brett Brown? Like, Brett Brown couldn't get anything more from Ben Simmons. Somehow he got more in the playoffs from him. He found a way to kind of avoid him, but still let him do things that he did well. Like, if he got a rebound, he could push it. But for the most part, it was Jimmy Butler running the offense. So that was pretty good. That was a pretty smart idea there by Brett Brown. Doc Rivers got less. Doc Rivers had to bench Ben Simmons at the end of the playoffs, obviously, last year. So that wasn't good. And when you really think about it, even the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals that Brett Brown got to with that Jimmy Butler team, they were a quadruple doink away from at least forcing overtime, where maybe they win that. And maybe because the Raptors had the path to the NBA championship laid out there pretty well, maybe that would be the Sixers sitting in that spot, winning an NBA championship. If a quadruple doink. Now, that's the biggest maybe you could ever mention when you talk about maybe you win a championship if you win that Eastern Conference semifinals. The team that knocked you out ended up winning, so let's just go with that narrative for a second. Under the maybe clause. But I'm reading this article, and I'm thinking about Doc Rivers' end of the year press conference where he talked about how great he was. And I'm replaying it in my head how he was saying, if you think I've done a bad job, we'll write about it. So Tiago Scabbia put this out there on Twitter yesterday. And I gotta agree. I haven't watched Painted Lines. I haven't listened to Painted Lines. I haven't read a lot of paintedlines.com in my life. But this came up in my feed. Tiago's tweet to put out his story from the paintedlines.com grabbed my attention, and I'm like, click, because his headline in his tweet is Doc Rivers offered for someone to write about his awful job as Philadelphia's head coach. So I took him up on the offer. And then he attached his story. It's right there. And I was click and read. It is very compelling. And I don't want to out the guy's story all that much because I want you to read it. I want you to give him the click as well. I want you to give the paintedlines.com the click. But just a couple of things that we'll go over in the interview here. I forgot what was at stake for a second here. Like we always talk about, we reference not wasting Joel Embiid's prime. Like that has become the focus. Whenever a trade deadline is reared its ugly head, whenever the Sixers get bounced out earlier than we expected them to, that's all the stuff in the world that we focus on. Oh, we don't want to waste Joel Embiid's prime. But it's not just that. And I forget what's at stake sometimes because it's more than just Joel Embiid's prime that's at stake here. With this team, what's always at stake are the 4 years, 3.5 years really, where we watched the worst basketball we have ever seen in the history of this great city. We said, Sam Hinkie, for the most part, a lot of us said, Sam, we trust you. All right, break this down to build it back up. I am willing to forfeit 3 years of my basketball fandom if it means you're going to get Ben Simmons, you're going to get multiple number 1 overall picks, you're going to get Joel Embiid. If it means all that, all right, because that's a core that you're going to get a core you could build with. And then you can bring in other stars on top of that. Oh, yeah, let's do it. But we still sacrificed even a chance at never knowing what could happen in the playoffs, whether it could be the Sixers that made it to the Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 7 against the Celtics with Andre Iguodala that I reference all the time. You never know what could happen. Derrick Rose goes down. Joakim Noah goes down. Next thing you know, you're in the second round. No one expects you to be in the second round. So it was worth being reminded in the story what was at stake. The other thing that is just mind-blowing to me is the pick-and-roll offense and how well that was working for the Sixers during the regular season. And let's just say the pick-and-roll was at a +6 in terms of advantage, just to not get caught up in the numbers too much. Let's just say that they were +6 in using it. They were doing great. And during the regular season, they were -6 in ISO. Like using ISO offense, okay? In the playoffs, it was reversed. Why did you get away from what was working so well in the regular season? If you have Joel Embiid and you have James Harden and the pick and roll is actually working for you, good God, man, stick with that. You got you got an MVP caliber player, you got a former MVP, and it's working well, by all means, stick with it. Doc Rivers, I'm good. No, we don't need that. Let's go with the ISO ball. That didn't work out too well with the 76ers. And then one other thing that stuck out was the idea of not using younger players and the idea of getting away from younger players and keeping them on a short leash. And the name that sticks out to me above all is B-Ball Paul. Now, B-Ball Paul isn't really talked about all that much in the article, but when you talk about that type of philosophy, I'm like, why are you not going on a Paul Reed victory tour? Like, nobody's saying Paul Reed is going to be a huge difference maker. We're saying Paul Reed is by far the lesser of the evils that you have on that bench in terms of options to play center if Joel Embiid has to miss a significant amount of time, if Joel Embiid's not playing, or if Joel Embiid needs a break. Like it or not, we're starting DeAndre Jordan. Well, Doc, like it or not, similarly to the way you told us that you weren't going to take Ben Simmons out of a game, and then you did take Ben Simmons out of a game. Paul Reed may have never started, but we never saw DeAndre Jordan after Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Heat. We never saw him after he started Game 2. So you mean to tell me this guy is better to start? He's good to start, but he's not good enough to even get mop-up minutes at the end of a game? Okay. Okay. And something else that doesn't even get brought up in the story, but something that I still focus on is how it seems as if Doc Rivers has, there's a dreaded phrase, lost the locker room. We have Joel Embiid talking about after the Bucks game about how he's got to match minutes with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You got James Harden being thrown under the bus where, it's not the bench's fault, it's James has got to be better. Oh, okay. Now James has got to go play for you? Okay, cool. Or even a guy like Paul Reed who's busted his butt trying to just crack the lineup at all to come off the bench to play for you. And it's like, we're not going to go on the Paul Reed Victory Tour. Okay, you seem like you're fun at parties. Thanks, Doc. It's astonishing to me. I feel like these guys should get a lot more trust than what they're getting from Doc Rivers. And they're just not getting it. So where do they go from here? Well, as of right now, the most likely scenario is that Doc Rivers is back. But I think it is important to note that it seems like there are multiple. Adrian Wojnarowski has said it, and then we played it yesterday for you when it comes to Brian Windhorst putting it out there as well, saying that he's not convinced Doc Rivers will be back. The possibility is still there that Doc Rivers does not return as a 76ers head coach. One of the things that we talk about there with Tiago Scabbia is whether or not he would want a guy like Sam Cassell to take over in the event that Doc Rivers would be going out west, possibly to the LA Lakers. So we'll discuss that with him coming up in just a second. I do want to give you these numbers because I saw these on the old television yesterday about Jimmy Butler. It was an incredible game last night. If you guys didn't watch, I was flipping back and forth between that and the Phillies. It was pretty impressive, but our boy Jimmy Butler, there's a couple of numbers they used here on the old Sports Center yesterday. Some are mind-numbing and confusing, so I'm going to stay away from those. But how about this? Second player in postseason history. This is Jimmy Butler. Second player in postseason history with 40 points, 3 blocks, 3 steals in a conference and divisional finals. That's not bad. Now, how about this? Fifth player in NBA history with a 40-point game in each of the first 3 rounds, joining James Harden, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Allen Iverson. Fifth player in NBA history with 40-point games in each of the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Yeah, that guy was in a 76ers uniform once. Tobias Harris over me? Yep. Ain't it cool? Good time. You know, I need to go back and listen because I know Jimmy Butler was on the Old Men in the 3 podcast with JJ Redick. And he was actually open and honest about why he left. And I remember him talking about Brett Brown. I remember him talking about Ben Simmons. I don't think he got too far into the detail there. But it sounded like it was a lot about Brett. And I'm a guy who liked Brett Brown. I didn't think he was a Hall of Fame coach by any means, but I thought he was doing the best with what he had. And I think that in comparison to Doc Rivers, I've told you many, many times, the reason I was for Doc Rivers is because I thought he had clout, authority, and he might be the only one to get the attention of a guy like Ben Simmons to have him expand his game. Well, we all know the ending of that story. So it's like, well, what are we doing here with Doc then? Because nothing else jumps out to me as some brilliant head coach that's well worthy of continuing to coach this team, continuing as the head coach of this team. It's, I'll say it again, it's bonkers to me. It's bonkers. But anyway, if you didn't watch that game last night, I highly recommend at least checking out the highlights because every ounce, like that was such a Jimmy Butler game last night. There was back-to-back possessions. Jason Tatum had just lazy passes, and Jimmy Butler jumped to the passing lane. The second one, he reminded me of what Matisse Thybulle would do a lot, which was kind of bait the pass, like bait the guard in this instance, try to make a play, and thinking he's got an open passing lane and then jumping the route, almost like a defensive back in football. And he did that on the second forced turnover that he had, and he took it the rest of the way for the 2 points. It was incredible. And to just think for a second that guy was on our squad and we let him go in Philadelphia is abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. Before we get to today's guests, let me tell you about the great people there at Destination Retirement, destinationretirement.com. My man, Mike Seibert. He's a retirement income certified professional at Destination Retirement LLC and a partner of 1847 Financial and an advisor for Eagles, Sixers, and Phillies fans only. Maybe next year with the Flyers as well. When it comes to long-term savings, why are you giving up the current enjoyment of your income? The answer is to have an income stream in retirement. It only makes sense then to understand how retirement income streams work so that you can direct savings in ways that give you the highest income when you retire. Think of it like climbing a mountain. Is the objective just to get to the top of the mountain? No. You got to get safely back down the mountain as well. That's where Mike Seibert comes in. He also lets you know about your retirement phases, the phases of your income. When it comes to the phases of your financial life, there's the distribution phase, and then there's also the accumulation phase. Accumulation comes first. You're going up the mountain. Distribution is going down the mountain. Those are the 2 different phases of your financial life. Then what we're going to do right now is talk about college planning. If you're saving for your kids' college education, don't think that should affect your retirement, because Mike can show you an efficient way to help save for your kids' college education and still retire on your own terms. To find out how to do this, email him at gobirds@1847financial.com. That's gobirds@1847financial.com. Tell him you heard us on the Farzy show talking about him. And you can call his office as well at 484-275-6035. That's 484-275-6035. Or again, email him at gobirds@1847financial.com. Mike will get back to you and let you know how you can set up these different vehicles and use these vehicles so you can take money out of certain areas and start your growth cycle without starting your growth cycle over again. Find out how your annual retirement savings can help your college savings and how your annual college savings can help your retirement savings. Once again, email Mike at gobirds@1847financial.com. You can also visit his website at destinationretirement.com. How about Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row in Philadelphia, where you can enjoy the perfect price. Does it sound too good to be true? It's not. It's just true. And it is pretty damn good as well. The perfect price. A lot of times when you're making these big purchases, whatever it might be, you feel like you got to negotiate. You feel like there's pressure. You got to go in there and perform. Not at Steven Singer, because everything's set at the perfect price. The person next to you is paying the same that you're paying. And guess what you're both doing? You're paying less than you would at any other jeweler simply because you're getting locked in at the perfect price. Another jeweler, they might mark things up, way up, just to mark it down a couple of $100 in front of you, make you feel like you're winning something. I negotiated, I got it. Yeah, guess what? You still lost. Because that jeweler's marked it up so high that whatever they mark it down to, they're still making out on it because it's not at the perfect price. At Steven Singer Jewelers, he's got that perfect price every single day because he wants to treat you like family at the other corner of 8th and Walnut. A real jewelry expert will walk you through everything when you walk in to Steven Singer Jewelers or when you peruse all their beautiful, dazzling, sparkling diamond inventory at IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping at IHateStevenSinger.com. So do what I do when it comes to all your beautiful jewelry purchases. When it comes to the birthday, when it comes to the anniversary, when it comes to the push present, fellas, head to Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. One place, one price, the perfect price every single day. IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, let's jump on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. I'll show it again, and I'll read it off to you again during the interview. But it's rare that something catches my eye as quickly as this did. Doc Rivers said it himself. If you think I did a bad job, write about it. Thiago Scabia took him up on it. Ladies and gentlemen, Tiago Scabbia joins us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. Right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. If you're a Sixers fan, probably have come across this article already from thepaintedlines.com. We have the author himself, Tiago Scabbia, on with us right now. What's up, Tiago? How are you?
Man, when I wrote this article, I never thought it would be me sitting with you here to end the day, but here we are, man. So I'm happy to sit down with you and talk about it.
Well, I appreciate you making the time for us. Here is your Twitter profile, so people can look you up right there. I'll put that up on the screen for people. And then here is the article. Now, this is what caught my eye. Because I got to say, I don't read the painted lines as much as I should, but I will now. Thanks to this article. Your tweet summed it up here. Doc Rivers offered someone to write about his awful job as Philadelphia's head coach, so I took him up on the offer. This reminded me of a great line. I don't know if you know the Smartless podcast, but Will Arnett has a great line. Whenever he hears somebody say, I'm my own worst critic, he always says, well, can I have a crack at it? And I feel like this article did a great job of invoking that line a little bit, or at least the attitude of that line when it came to Doc Rivers' offer that, yes, you in fact took him up on. And Tiago, I will say this, it is a phenomenally written article. It's not just rage. It's not anger. It's nothing of that. It's just, here's the facts. Doc Rivers hasn't done that good a job.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, he asked, right? So he asked the whole audience if anybody wanted to take him up on that offer. I've kind of waited through the weekend to see if somebody would. I didn't really see anything come across, so I figured why not take a shot at it. As if you guys will read the article, you know that I've had some very strong opinions about Doc Rivers in the past. It's been 2 years. And really what the article served to do was to first highlight the fact that there's some gaslighting going on when Doc Rivers talks about his time here in Philadelphia. There's a little bit of a twisting history, so I kind of wanted to call that out. And second of all, we'll touch on is the fact that man, it's time, man. It is time for us to see some progress, and we're just not seeing any of that stuff right now. So it's concerning, to say the least.
It is concerning, and I always focus on this, and I feel like every year now I've done the same type of tweets where I just try to acknowledge that we have been into this a long time, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Sixers fans almost more than any other fan base, because Sixers fans invested those 3 hardcore years of the process where it was nothing but losing, no hope, draft and stash, or draft an injured guy so he doesn't play till the following year or whatever it might be. And we still haven't seen this team get past the second round of the playoffs. And I always point this out. Doug Collins got to Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Nobody else has gotten past Game 7. Brett Brown, Doc Rivers now, and it's almost like of all the coaches, Brett Brown's the one that's gotten the closest, considering, and you highlight this in the article, the quadruple doink. If that doesn't go in, maybe the Sixers win in overtime, and maybe the Sixers cut through the playoffs just like the Raptors did through the Eastern Conference Final and actually win an NBA championship.
That's remarkable when you think about it. We were talking about it before the podcast. Joel Embiid's going to turn 29 years old next year. 29 years old. And if you're not a little bit concerned about that number, then you just you don't follow the history of the NBA. 30 seems to be kind of a number that seems to kind of start to get to players. And for a guy like Joel Embiid, man, not to have ever played in a conference final or an NBA championship game, it is mind-boggling because you see the talent that he is. I mean, you put him up there with Luka, you put him up there with Giannis, with Kevin Durant, you put him with the absolute top level talents in the NBA. And for him not to have an Eastern Conference final, granted, there's other factors that come at play. But I thought that the Sixers for 2 straight years now under Doc Rivers were at least positioned to get there, if not the NBA Finals. And I thought that Doc Rivers just did a terrible, terrible job managing their postseason expectations, which turned out to be the case against Miami and Atlanta as well. So.
Certainly. Tiago, if I was to grant you access to the Sixers in terms of being at their practices and being on the coaching staff more or less, and let's say that Doc Rivers really trusted your advice, what would you tap on his shoulder and tell him something that he needs to do different as a head coach?
Well, first of all, after this article, I don't think that's going to happen.
Fair enough. Well, let's fish a wish for a second. I think he can use all the help he can get. But let's just say in this fantasy that you could give him some advice. What's something that you see him doing that just leaves you dumbfounded?
Well, I kind of touched on the article a couple of things. I think that throughout the regular season, Doc has a weird way of boxing himself into a corner. So he relies a lot on his veteran play, right? We talked about DeAndre Jordan and some of the other veteran guys have come through the system through Doc Rivers. And in this particular season, we saw backup center being a massive problem for them throughout the whole year, especially when they traded away Andre Drummond. So going into the year and going to the postseason, I didn't think he had a coherent plan around who to play behind Joel. And we talked about Paul Reed, for instance. Paul Reed showed that he can play. I mean, in his limited number of minutes that he had in the regular season, it worked out okay, but you just didn't get a sense that he was fully ready for the moment. And I thought that him not playing throughout the regular season and only doing like mop-up duties kind of put the Sixers at a disadvantage, especially when Joel went down. Because at that point, now you're relying on Paul Reed, not for 5 to 10 minutes, but for 15 to 20 minutes. And you kind of tell that he's just not that type of player yet. But throughout the regular season, he showed that he could be that player. So it's just the over-reliance on veterans. I mean, we talked about Tyrese Maxey last year, played less than 200 minutes in the postseason. The guy is a bona fide star. I mean, he's going to be a star. You can clearly tell. And him not being able to play, especially with Ben Simmons struggling the way he was last year, all that seems to kind of come back around on Doc Rivers. And I truly think, man, if he does not change his mindset around that, the Sixers are going to be caught again next year in the postseason, just the way that this seems to work out.
When it comes to Joel Embiid and not wasting his prime, that's kind of one of the things that I feel like the Sixers are doing right now. You mentioned 29 years old, and Doc Rivers gets the huge responsibility, just as those other GMs that have come across have had that huge responsibility of not wasting this guy's prime. What is it the Sixers could be doing? I know that in the article you point out, and this was what absolutely blew my mind, the pick and roll offense and ISO offense. During the regular season, good on the pick and roll. Postseason, completely inverted. It was all ISO. Why go and make that change in the playoffs when it comes to the style of play that was actually working for you in the regular season?
I mean, Mark, that is a staple of Doc Rivers, man. That goes back to way back the Clipper days. It's one of the reasons I thought they've consistently failed as a team in the postseason, going to that ISO style ball. That is a Doc Rivers staple. To your point, I don't think it makes any sense. We saw Joel and Harden pick and rolls. It was a nearly unstoppable play. And for some strange reason, it just goes back to isolation basketball. I talked about on the article 2 MVP level years from Joel Embiid, and you don't even have a top 10 offense in the NBA. That's nearly unheard of. And it goes back to not shooting enough three-point shots, not playing with enough pace. And it's kind of unexcusable, man. I mean, this is the new NBA. If you think they're just going to live through Joel Embiid in the post and playing, shot clock offense, you're not going to win any championships, man. And we're seeing that with Doc Rivers for 2 straight seasons now. It is concerning because you don't see a willingness to change. I mean, unless you see something differently, it's the same narrative after every game that, we just didn't move the ball around or whatever. It's like, nah, man, you need to be doing better as a coach, period.
Yeah. No, and I'm aware of the criticism. I've read the articles from Clippers fans and from Clippers writers about what Doc Rivers did out there with his ISOs in the postseason. But it's like, here you thought it might be different because Joel Embiid's here, and that other thing, the pick and roll, was working so well. And then you think about it working well with Chris Paul and it working well with DeAndre Jordan in his heyday. It's like, nope, they still didn't do it out there. So silly me for thinking that. What would you do with this team going forward? Because it looks like at this point, Doc Rivers is still going to be back as the head coach next year. What would you do with this team? Would you bring in a Bradley Beal? Would you just keep stockpiling talent and maybe bolster the bench? What would you do to make an ultimate change on this team?
Yeah, I mean, the big fork on the road here is James Harden. I mean, what are you going to do with that contract? What type of money is he going to demand? Are you willing to stomach 4 or 5 years of James Harden moving forward? I don't know what you watched the postseason. It was a little bit concerning to think that this guy could command that much money in the future. I think that for me, with James Harden, it can work. First of all, he's got to take better care of his body, period. He's just not a guy who seems to be in shape. He also seemed to play through some injuries, which may have contributed to his poor play. So first off, what kind of James Harden do we get next year is very, very important. Then secondly, in that same James Harden kind of note, to me, he's got to be able to learn how to play a little more off the ball because we have Tyrese Maxey here on the court. He can be that guy moving forward. He can command more of the offense. So is James Harden that kind of player who can command a little bit more off the catch, right? So you're not so much of a point guard. You're more of a shooting guard, combo guard type player. He's a very good shooter. He's a very good shooter still to this day. And if he's able to kind of do those 2 things with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, I think you have a trio that can work. And you don't have to necessarily tap into it, Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine, because to me at that point, you're probably talking with too many cooks in the kitchen. 4 stars, 3-4 stars tends to be a little bit too much. So I like to see what kind of player do we get back with James Harden next year and then be able to work with Tyrese Maxey as a kind of combo guard / shooting guard type player. He's still a tremendous playmaker. He should still be able to run point, no question. But a little bit less load on him, I think, will help the Sixers moving forward.
I understand that it's going to be a little bit of both, but what would you say it's more of? Is it more age for James Harden, or is it more hamstring for him in terms of why we saw some deterioration of skills lately?
Man, that's the $1 million question. Man.
I know, right?
I'm hopeful.
Actually, $47 million question.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly. Actually, if I were to answer that right now, point blank, I do think the age has played a little bit of a role in this game. I mean, you watched them in Brooklyn. It went down pretty fast. And that, to me, is a little bit concerning. And like I said, history tends to point very negatively towards players at that age. So I tend to think it's more of an age thing.
If you're a young guy on this squad like Paul Reed, and one of the things I couldn't get over was how emphatically Doc Rivers pointed out that DeAndre Jordan will be the starter, like it or not. Oh, my God. If you're Paul Reed and you're already told, hey, we're not going on a Paul Reed victory tour, and like it or not, you ain't starting. If you're a young player, why would you want to play for this guy?
That's exactly it. And that's exactly it. And the Sixers played a team in Miami who is the complete opposite of that. They had 8 undrafted free agents on that team. These are guys who I talked about in the article. Doc finds reasons not to play guys. Eric Spoelstra will find reasons to play guys. And that's a very cultural difference between both coaches. And Miami has a unbelievable player development system. They turn guys in and out of that system. Guys who shouldn't be in the NBA become impact players. And the Sixers are sitting on Paul Reed, Tyrese Maxey, who has made a leap. Charles Bass, another guy who should have been playing. and Isaiah Joe, who's a knockdown shooter. Those guys cannot get on the court for whatever reason. It is infuriating, to say the least, especially when you get guys like Korkmaz, Shake Milton, who have just not contributed enough to warrant playing time. So, yeah, if I'm Paul Reed, man, to be honest, I'm talking to my agent. And I'm like, hey, is there something out there that you work out? Because I don't think there's a future here for me.
Right. Going forward, if Doc Rivers is not the next head coach, and there's some conversation and some questions about that right now as to whether or not he actually will be, is the next coach you think on this staff right now with a Sam Cassell, a Dan Burke, whoever it might be, David Yeager, do you think the next head coach could be on this roster, on the coaching staff right now?
Do I think it could be? Yes. Would I necessarily hire that person? Not necessarily. I mean, there's some talk about Sam Cassell. To me, he's just an extension of Doc Rivers. I mean, granted, he has not had a coaching resume, but he's followed Doc Rivers throughout every single step of his career. So what leads us to think he's going to be any different than Doc?
Okay.
Dan Burke has been in the league for a very long time, never really gotten a coaching shot. Maybe there's a reason why that is. The name that I love is the guy out of Utah. So Quinn Snyder is a name that I think if it were ever become a Sixers coach, it makes perfect sense because Utah is a heavy pick and roll team through Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert at the time, and they're a sound defensive team. And I think a guy like that could really potentially change the dynamic of the Sixers moving forward with Harden, with Maxey. He's done wonders for Donovan Mitchell. Maxey kind of follows the same kind of blueprint. So that's a name that I'll be very interested in. But again, a lot has to kind of fall into place for that to happen. So
absolutely, I think that's a very interesting name and one that I'll certainly keep an eye on. If you don't mind, real quick, Tiago, just a personal thing. Just curious. Now we had talked before the show. You're originally from Brazil. You have the flag in your profile, which I absolutely love. How did you get started in writing and covering in the NBA?
Yeah, so I mean, really, the guys at Painted Lines kind of caused some of my work. I started a blog, kind of wrote some things about the Sixers. And man, the guys at Painted Lines are awesome. They give a phenomenal chance to work. We do some podcasts and we do some live videos. Austin Krell is a beat writer. He's credentialed. He covers the Sixers. He's had a lot of run-ins with Doc Rivers in his own play.
No, he's the one that inspired Would You Ask Pop that question, no?
Yes, he was the one that and obviously we got the soundbite out of that. So if you're a guy looking, you have ideas, you have a passion for writing, it's a great place to check out, and definitely, man, tap into what we do. We would love for anybody to join us for sure. I
have caught some of Austin Krell's work, and it's great stuff as well. Tiago, this was such a joy. Thanks so much. Congratulations on what is a phenomenally written, well-executed article. As I said, it's not just keyboard gangster stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's actually well thought out. Philosophy about basketball. And saying why Doc Rivers may not have done such a bang-up job over the last 2 years as the Sixers head coach. So, Thiago Scabia, I can't thank you enough for coming on from thepaintedlines.com. Make sure you guys check it out. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, first and foremost. For those that haven't seen it, it's Tiago. That's ThiagoPHL. That's like Philly. At Tiago PHL on Twitter. And then make sure you guys check out the article. Here it is in his Twitter timeline. I'll retweet it as well so you guys can see it. Tiago, can't thank you enough, man. Really enjoyed the article and really enjoyed the conversation.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much, and enjoy your work as well. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're too kind. Appreciate it. Tiago Scabbia from PaintedLines.com joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. How about that, huh? What a story. First off, what a story he wrote, and then a story for him. A guy from Brazil. Likes the NBA, wants to write about the NBA, blogs about the NBA, the paintedlines.com. Great job by them. They give him a shot. And here is a great article with 200 plus retweets for a guy that has a couple thousand followers. Good for him. How great is that? And it's good. It's really good. Now, that shouldn't be like, something's written. It should be good, obviously. But this is a really good piece. And as I pointed out, it's not just rage tweeting. It's not rage writing. It's not keyboard gangster. It's well thought out and backed up opinions. So I give him a lot of credit. I think it's a great piece. Yeah, April. Sorry, we didn't do a Farzy 5 with him. After I was like, I should have done the Farzy, but we'll get him back. Because I enjoyed that conversation greatly. And great hair on that man. By golly, for those on the podcast, he's got phenomenal hair. Like hair that this bald man would gladly have. And I don't have hair envy. I don't. But I do in this case. There he is right there. Look at him. So there you go. One thing I do see in the chat, and I thought about this as well, the Sam Cassell. He has no track record. Tiago just said that. But he said that he's been with Doc Rivers for a long time, and he might be an extension of Doc Rivers. That's the way he feels. I don't feel that way. I feel like I got to see the guy in the role at least. Like, look at a guy like Jason Kidd, for instance. The first time we saw him in Milwaukee, yeah, he's helping bring along a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. But overall, not that great a head coach. People had a lot of doubts about it when the Sixers job was open after Brett Brown. Jason Kidd's name was thrown around a little bit. You don't want him, blah, 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 blah. Now he goes to Dallas, and he's coaching in his alum, for the most part, a team that he coached himself, and he doing a hell of a job. What improvement. He learned a lot from his first gig. We learned a lot about him as a head coach from his first gig to his second gig. I would like to learn at least what Sam Cassell will do as a head coach, if it's not even here, maybe even elsewhere, just to see what kind of coach he is. I'm not going to assume simply because he is coached under one particular person, assisted as a coach under one particular person. I'm not going to go ahead and assume that he's going to be like that guy. I mean, this guy has played for some pretty damn good coach. George Karl is another coach that he played under. We all know the series with the Bucks here in Philadelphia, the Allen Iverson days. He's played for some pretty good coaches as well. What's not to say that he will take some of what he has played under? He'll take from some of the coaches that he's played for in his career. What's to say he won't do that? So I'm more curious than I think some other people might be about what Sam Cassell could do as a head coach. Same thing with Dan Burke, same thing with David Yeager in terms of what they could be doing as a head coach in the NBA. I'd love to see what they have to offer. But I think Sam Cassell would be the guy that's on everybody else's short list at the end of this season. So we'll see how that plays out. But let me tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, about the great people at Rothman Orthopedics who sponsor our fine guest line each and every day. Hey, remember the old you? The one that didn't have to put up with a fickle knee, a finicky hip, or a shoulder that no longer does what a shoulder should do? Well, how about this? The Rothman approach to orthopedics. It's here to get you back to being you, back to running, back to working, back to playing, back to running around, having yourself a great time, back to living your life the way you want. With same-day appointments available, you can start today at RothmanOrtho.com. Same-day appointments available. You can start today at RothmanOrtho.com. That's RothmanOrtho.com, the official orthopedic partner of your Phillies, Eagles, and Sixers. That's RothmanOrtho.com. How about Freestone Farm CBD? You guys liking your CBD? Huh? You liking your CBD? How about 20% off your CBD? 20% off CBD? FreestoneFarmsCBD.com. Use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy for 20% off your CBD. Their menu, you'll have to see it for yourself. It's fantastic. Something you absolutely have to check out. With strains like their new and absolutely insane tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu Kush at 21%. The genetics of these, they're absolutely fantastic. They grow in their premium hemp flower in the Garden State as well. With all organic inputs and IPM, there's absolutely nothing synthetic from farm to jar. And after harvest, they carefully preserve all the plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. Like a nice stick of pepperoni. Just one look or smell, and it's enough to let you know that this CBD is CBD done right from Freestone Farm CBD. And it's a product that's great for anyone looking for a natural approach to anything that they put in their body. And once again, 20% off is what you get when you use promo code Farzy upon checkout. That's promo code Farzy at checkout at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. That's FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's jump into the chat check. See how these fine people are doing on this fine morning. April, what's happening? April, let me just jump to this. Yes, I did hear Mike Myers on the Smartless podcast. It was incredible. Highly recommend. If you're a Wayne's World freak like I am, and you guys know both times we've had our friend Natalie Eganoff on the show, she and I are both, we're good friends, and we absolutely love the movie Wayne's World. It's probably what we bonded over. That and Frank Sinatra, probably what we bonded over. Oh, yeah, and then sports. But we did the Wayne's World pop quiz. She was really sharp in Wayne's World 1, got them all right, nailed it. Wayne's World 2, not so much. We had some struggles. But anyway, Mike Myers on the Smartless podcast, highly recommended. It was it was pretty damn funny. So April, good morning. Kevin, good morning. Nice to see you. Mally, what's popping? James Tyler, what's up, James? Yo, James, what's going on? Cody, what's up, Cody? Sean, Mally, hello again. I blame Evan for yesterday's loss. He said this offense can rake. I've said this offense could rake, Mally. I'll take some of the responsibility there. A lot of us said the offense could rake. But how about this? Mally, this is what it comes down to. We're just getting ready to celebrate. The good vibes are rolling. And the Phillies, they killed them. Moment of silence for the destroyed vibes, positive vibes surrounding the Phillies. Shiloh, what's up, Shiloh? Clay, what's going on? Good morning, Mike Fuji, what's going on? Happy Hump Day. Is today Hump Day already? Good Lord. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Wow. Pots and pans. We actually had Jimmy Butler in a Sixers uniform. Damn you. I like all that right there. Fuji, Schwarb has been hitting the long ball, but just a disgrace when it comes to batting and on-base percentage. Yeah, it has not been sharp. April, Butler is definitely the one that got away. This has been my stance for a long time with Jimmy Butler. When we tell our grandkids about the process, how did it end, Poppy? I don't know. How did it end? Well, there's a man named Jimmy Butler, and he killed it. Bad, very bad. Fuji, batting average, I got you. I picked up. Tevita, what's up, Tevita? Good morning again. Welcome back. Marquise, what's up, Marquise? Joe, one of the I was at the misplay. Thanks, April. Marquise, damn, we can't stop talking Sixers after witnessing last night the guy the Sixers should have kept in Jimmy Buckets, proving the Sixers made one of the stupidest decisions in NBA history. Marquise, I was thinking about this. Now, it is all revisionist history, but at the time, I will say this, nobody wanted Jimmy Butler to go. Everybody wanted Jimmy Butler over Tobias Harris. I don't know a one soul that was like, well, the Sixers, they got to get rid of Tobias Harris and they got to get rid of Jimmy Butler. I think in most people's point of view, Jimmy didn't like the direction the franchise was going in, wanting to build around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. He was fine with building around Joel Embiid, was not fine with building around Ben Simmons, and I don't think he was too crazy about Brett Brown either. So all that combined, I think the Sixers decided, well, we can't lose both these guys. We gave up a pretty nice chunk of change to get Jimmy Butler, to get Tobias Harris. And, by the way, for the bottom line, we gave up a lot to get to the seventh game of the Eastern Conference semifinals. And we're that quadruple doink away from at least forcing overtime to the team that eventually won the championship. So I think what they thought was we can't lose both. We got to keep one, so let's keep Tobias. They overpaid Tobias. We all know that. I don't know anybody that was like, oh, let's get rid of Jimmy and keep Tobias. That's the better plan. No, it was not the better plan. That's how it shook out. And I think most of it was because Jimmy Butler looked around and was like, I don't trust Ben Simmons with anything. You want me to trust that guy with developing? Get the hell out of here. Yeah, no thanks. And I do think part of Jimmy Butler was almost amused by Brett Brown in terms of he knew he had a great guy as a head coach. I just don't think he was all that confident in how great a head coach that great guy could be. So ultimately, Ben Simmons and Brett Brown is why Jimmy's not here anymore. If Jimmy expressed wanting to play for or with either of those two guys, I think he'd still be here in Philadelphia. But the Sixers said, yeah, Jimmy, I don't think that you want to play with Ben. We're choosing Ben. We're choosing Brett. Bye-bye. I think at the time, if most people told you that, all right, well, if you're going to keep Jimmy, you got to move Ben, I think most people would have said, nah, I'm going to hold on to Ben. And that's ultimately what the Sixers decided. In hindsight, yeah, pretty damn dumb. Tavita, Sean, Duck Rivers lost the locker room and fans. He's still the coach in this mystery. He's still the coach in this. Wait, do you mean to say misery? In the mystery. All right. Mally, Duck Rivers with the duck emoji. I appreciate it. Must have got the same Asian as Howie Roseman. That's the only way he could figure out how to still have his job in Philly. John Cheeseborough, what's up, buddy? Saying good morning to everybody. Sean, Ben Simmons couldn't handle criticism. Was also a major reason Jimmy Butler was like, oh, absolutely. Jim Grassmeter, what's up? Good morning. Alex, what's going on? Cody saying hi to everybody. Jack, what up? Nice to have you. John Cheesebro, watching the Celtics Heat last night, I'm going to check out the rule book because apparently they were going for rebounds offensively and defensively. I was shocked as that as well. You're allowed the rebound on both ends of the court. Who knew? Carter, what's going on? It's Carter. It's a party. Damn right, it's a party in the chat check. Tyvita, I just love that you're saying good morning to everybody. That's so awesome. We need duckisms. That's funny. We do need duckisms. Let's see what else people got over here. Alex, I thought Farzy spelled Tiago Splitter wrong. I did ask him before I hit record. I was like, I just want to make sure. It is Tiago, right? The H. And he's like, yeah, the H is silent. I was like, all right, cool. Just making sure. I'm just making sure. I don't like mispronouncing. Somebody, I think somebody from Serbia hit me up when I was saying that who's the fella, the tall guy from what is he from? Denver? Nikola Jokic. Someone was telling me to pronounce his name right. I try to put the proper stank on every inflection of everyone's name. I will say I struggle with the Eastern European pronunciation. I'm not as sharp as I might be in others, like my Latino and Latina brothers and sisters. Certainly the Italians, God bless them. Polish, I do okay. Polish, I got that thing. And everything else, I struggle. I'll have some struggles. So if I can't, and plus, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to do too much with it. You know what I mean? So I hear it, Nikola Jokic. So I'll say, and I'm thinking Joker already. So the J. Anyway, I try to pronounce everybody's name correctly. And one of the things I do ask people, like I asked JT Realmuto, for instance, because everyone will, like, I'm like, people are putting a lot of stank on this name. I just want to make sure I know how to pronounce this. So I literally asked him, and he goes, yeah, people try to do way too much with it. It's just Real Muto, just a good Sicilian boy from Oklahoma. And I'm like, I've never heard that sentence. A good Sicilian boy from Oklahoma. All right, good enough. The Godfather. Oh, here you go, Tavita. Rivers is a narcissist. I concur. I think I did a great job. Okay, there's sport. You know, one thing I didn't focus on enough, I don't even think I mentioned it, because I think it just makes me want to bang my head against the wall. When Doc Rivers said nobody expected us to be anything, what? You can't be serious. Nobody expected you to be. Nobody expected you to be. You got an MVP caliber player in your lineup. You were in the Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 7, with a pretty damn good lineup. No one expected you to be anything? Okay. Mally, why'd Tiago look like an 80s? All right. I'll say this. Handsome man. Duck didn't know that Sean Gillespie. Duck didn't know that an 80-year-old basketball player was not a good idea. I'm assuming you're referencing DeAndre Jordan. No Paul Reed tour. Alex, you're exactly right. John Cheesebro. Duck Rivers didn't know that Donovan McNabb didn't know that the NFL games could end in a tie. Yeah, that's pretty much the same. Duck didn't know how to bet on the Harlem Globetrotters opponent. Oh, Doc didn't know to not bet on the Washington Generals. Sean, I believe, is where you're going. We got some isms going. I feel bad for Rivers' wife. She has to deal with them all day now. Tyvita, that's cold. April. Tiago had a great head of lettuce. He really did, man. And he had that. He had the TJ McConnell hair flip going, too. Come on now. I don't have hair envy. Here I am referencing guys with great hair. Hey, Miss Scusi. What the hell? Cassell doesn't stand up to Doc. That makes him a little... Tyvita, I love it. Cassell doesn't stand up to Doc. That makes him a little liable. I like it. Okay, sure. Wait, I pronounce Quinn swing batta. Mullet, I'm missing the reference. Mullet, don't front with keyboard gangsters. You damn right you don't. Yeah, Marquise. That's why I like Dan Burke. Biggest win of the Sixers when they went on the road against Brooklyn. Yeah, it's a great point. And the other thing is, how the Sixers embraced Dan Burke during that little 2-game stretch where they didn't have Doc Rivers, I thought was interesting. Like dumping water on him in the locker room. Like I don't know. There's something about that I'm like, why are they? They seem to be relieved. Dan Burke was the coach and not Doc Rivers. I don't know. Maybe it's just a substitute teacher type of thing where you're excited to see the substitute teacher. You're never excited to see the teacher. Although I had some great teachers. I will say that. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are fantastic as per usual. Great conversation. Let's get into our morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Phillies will try to bounce back from losing each of their last 2 games, 5-4 to the Dodgers in Los Angeles, and then 3-0 yesterday in South Philly to the Padres. Another 6:45 start time today. This time around, Zach Wheeler will get the ball for the Phillies against Blake Snell. Goo! Blake Snell has not made a start so far this season. I'm sorry, he hasn't made a start so far for the season, so he'll make his first start. It looks like for the Padres. So it'll be on the lefty will be on the bump for them tonight. 6:45 start time in South Philadelphia. Taking a look at the NBA 9:00 tip off tonight between the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are back to where a lot of people thought they might not return. The run is over. I remember Draymond Green getting asked this question a couple of different times. Is the run over? Is the run over? The whole thing. Well, after the Heat took care of business last night to take the 1-0 series lead on the Celtics with their 118-107 victory, Jimmy Butler playing out of his mind. The Western Conference Finals gets underway tonight. 9:00 tip-off in Golden State, or at Golden State, I should say. Luka Doncic has been incredible. I believe he is the leading scorer right now of all the teams that are still in the NBA playoffs. Giannis Antetokounmpo averaged more points per game during his playoff run. That's now over. You have a guy named Luka Doncic who is taking the league by storm right now with the Dallas Mavericks. And how about this? The last time the Dallas Mavericks were playing in the Eastern Conference or Western Conference semifinals, Jason Kidd was playing for them. And that's when they won the championship over LeBron James and the Heat that year in 2011. Now what's going to go down in Golden State is pretty amazing to me. Steph Curry, obviously back from injury, playing great. Klay Thompson's making just under 41% of his threes in the postseason. Steph Curry is averaging about 28 points per game. Draymond Green's playing his normal great defense. It wouldn't shock me if the Warriors win another title. And that would be incredible considering Klay Thompson missed 2+ seasons. Steph Curry missed basically a full season, all but 5 games a couple of years ago. And they've gotten older. And they've lost Kevin Durant, right? It wouldn't surprise me, man. I wouldn't be sure. I love watching Luka Doncic play. But something about I love the way the Warriors play. Because they play the game the way they wrote the script for the rest of the league. And they play it better than anybody. So watching that style is exciting and it is fun. I still love the 90s style of basketball, of pounding the basketball, pounding the rim and pounding the lane and make sure you're getting in there, getting the N1s and all that. I love that style. But when you play that Splash Brothers style and you're the Splash Brothers for a reason, damn, that's fun to watch. And I would not mind watching that in the NBA Finals yet again. That was the Morning Rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. One last thing in the Morning Rush, tomorrow. Now, I mentioned yesterday that I wanted to talk to Keith Pompey today. Once I saw the story from Tiago, I'm like, I got to get that guy, so I'm going to try to get Keith tomorrow. However, or for tomorrow's show, this is one interview we will talk about tomorrow. If you haven't seen this yet, it's fantastic. For the people on the podcast, I'm about to show a video of Leo Chen, recent University of Pennsylvania graduate, who, while his name was being called as a graduate of Penn to receive his diploma, he flashed his phone for the camera, and on the phone, written, was "Fire Doc Rivers." For the people on the podcast, I'm about to play that video for the people watching right now on YouTube and our various other platforms.
Leonard Chen, Joshua Eskin.
One more time.
Leonard Chen, Joshua Eskin.
Brilliant. Kid's brilliant. Well, he went to Penn, so of course he's brilliant. He'll be on the show tomorrow. We're talking later today. We'll play that interview tomorrow. Just to what went into that beautiful viral moment. Bleacher Report picked it up. All these other outlets picked it up. It's beautiful. So we'll talk to him for tomorrow's program, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow here on the Farzy Show, presented by Destination Retirement, destinationretirement.com. Coming to you live from the Steven Singer studio. Jim Hyden produced the program. PJ himself did a phenomenal job. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. My name is Mark Farzetta. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. See ya.